Good afternoon, everyone. It's Jim Fuse of the Tim and Jim Show. And unfortunately, my co-host Tim is a little bit under the weather. And so we're wishing him well and are excited today to be joined by Bill Sterrett of the i360 Group. Bill is a SEO and website wizard, in my opinion. And so, Bill, I'm glad we've gotten to know each other here in the Atlanta area. And why don't you tell our audience a little bit more about yourself and i360 Group?
Sure. Yeah, great to be here. Been following the show for a while now. So this is our 20th year as a digital agency. We're in Marietta, just outside of Atlanta. Digital agency means that we started doing websites back in 1999. Back when we had to explain to people what a website was. And probably in about 2001, started to see that search engine optimization was also a thing, and email marketing and social media didn't come later. But really for 20 years now, this has been really, the core of our focus is websites, web design. We do a lot of e-commerce work, and then getting business for local businesses using search engine optimization. And that's kind of really our 1-2 punch. We do other things. We do some, graphic design and branding and a little bit of marketing strategy. But really, I think that's what we're known for, and kind of the lane that we tend to stay in is just, and it's really gotten local. So we'll talk today about local. When we started, we had clients in Israel, Germany, around the world, West Coast, East Coast of the United States, North America. Now our business has gotten really, really local. And so it's Atlanta Metro. One of the reasons I think is that there are plenty of web developers and digital marketers everywhere. And so I think people sometimes like to work with somebody that's local. But we also, I'm a little old school, like to, talk with our clients on the phone, meet with them in person, shake their hand, whatever we can, and really just kind of partner with them in their business. So easy enough for us to just work with local businesses that are home services providers, roofers, and HVAC. We've got attorneys and CPAs, professional services. We have done work for organizations locally and nationally, and like I say, some e-commerce. Might be somebody just starting up, doing a side hustle, to large distributors of products, both commercially and to direct to consumer. So it's been fun, and I guess I need to mention that this is 20 years in business with my wife, Rhonda, who's really the brains behind. She heads up the development side of things. I do SEO and some strategy and a little bit of design, and she does programming and heads up our development team and really makes everything happen.
Right, and you also actually run a monthly SEO Meetup, I believe, and I've been able to attend it a couple times. You've had some very interesting guests. I know we had Catherine Dunn talking about Alexa, and that was pretty fascinating, some of the things that are going on with that. And when does that meet?
We meet on the first Tuesday of every month. We run it in the evenings, so in Marietta, so from 7 to 8:30. And the name of it is the Atlanta SEO Meetup for local businesses. So right. Really, it was designed for somebody that had a local business to come in. And so it was really, elementary topics, and really kind of stacking some of the concepts as well. So what is SEO, and how does it work? And then how do we create content, and what are backlinks? And then we, veer off. And like you said, we get into specialists like Catherine Dunn with voice search. And we've talked about Google Ads and Google My Business. We did a deep dive on Bing and just Microsoft's whole it's search infrastructure, and so you think about what Google has with Google Analytics and all of their suite of tools. Well, Microsoft's got something very similar, and while they don't have the market share that Google does, they still have about 15% of the market share, and so there's still billions and billions of searches being done on the Bing platform every day. And so we optimize our clients for Google, but we also optimize them for Bing, and in some cases we get wins, from Bing because there's less competition.
Right. And that actually ties in well to really our first question. And that's, what is local search?
So, the way I try to describe things, and I try to take things into really layman's terms. So if we had people that were in local businesses, a guy that runs an HVAC company or a roofing company, something like that, and they were attending our meetup or listening today or checking this out some other time. I think it's November here in Atlanta. The leaves are falling during the month of November. They're falling on the ground. It's fun, the first time to get out there and rake those leaves. But eventually, you look out and you say, you know what, I'm tired of this. I'm sick of this, and I want somebody else to do this. And so, what do people do? Well, they go to their favorite search engine and they do some sort of search, whether it's on a computer, a tablet, a smartphone, or a voice search. But essentially, they're going to say, I'm looking for, and whatever term that they use to describe it. So it might be, they may equate leaf removal with lawn care company. So I'm looking for a Marietta lawn care company, and then we type that into the search engines traditionally, and we get the results back, and so that's essentially what a local search is. And we think about all the different local, cities, towns, locales, not just in the United States, but all over the world. People are doing searches. People need products. They're looking for services. They're looking for answers. They're looking for connections. And so if they're looking for something, localized to them, then they're going to perform that search. They may, put in that city or that location. They may not. They may just say, I need a lawn service, or they may speak it into their phone very casually, as if Siri is their best friend. Hey, Siri, looking for a lawn care company, or need somebody to pick up my leaves. And then Siri's going to go into its process and produce those results. So it's almost limitless. The number of services and the locations. So, as I was saying, you could type in a city or a location. You may leave it off. Sometimes we see a near me. Sometimes the browser, the search engine that you're using, will even auto type near me as you're typing in, a lawn care service company, and it may even add the near me to it. And then we just hit enter, and it'll pull up those local results. And those local results, a search page, if you think about a search page, we get the ads at the top like we traditionally have. Often they're followed by Google Map Pack. And so that's usually 3 local businesses. And then we get into the organic search results. And in this case, with the home services, you might get a Yelp result, which is a list of companies, Home Advisor, and some of these other directories. One of the things we found, that when people are doing searches like this, that 90% of the searchers will ignore the ads at the top of the search results. They'll skip the Google Maps and they'll go directly to the organic results. And so there's 10 of those spots on a search engine results page. And if some of those results and some of those top positions are being taken by Yelp and Home Advisor and Angie's List and some of those other services, it really only leaves, sometimes 3-4 positions for the actual service provider themselves, Bob's Lawn Care, in Marietta. And so it puts Bob in a pretty good position if he can get to page 1. But in some cases, people will look at the maps, and if they're displayed on a map and there's a lot of information that's displayed in that little segment there, and you can click on the website from the map. So it's important to be able to rank in those maps. The other thing that we're starting to see more and more of is what we call position 0. So we have the ads at the top of the page, we have the map, but somewhere between the ads and the maps, you'll see questions answered. maybe, and we see it certainly with if we ask, Google what the weather is going to be for the week or things like that. Sometimes even a recipe, how much, milk should I put into my mac and cheese to get it, juicy again instead of dried out. And that information has come from a page that somebody's optimized, and they created sort of a question and answer and structured it a certain way. And so Google's providing that. And so that's, referred to as position 0. And you'll see those as a question and a little drop down. And you can click on the drop down, the answer's there, and there is a link to the actual page. And sometimes as you click on one of those, it adds 3 or 4 more to that list. And so this is another opportunity for people like us to get our clients into that position 0. And I've got a client I've been talking to this week that sells a product, and he wants to provide education and information and not just, sell. And so I've asked him to start to create some of these, question and answer things, and we'll create content and put those on the site, but that content will be in the form of, 7 things you need to know. In fact, this is about hyperbaric oxygen chambers. So
Wow.
7 things you need to know before purchasing a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, and or 5 things. Usually it's an odd number, and I think with these rich snippets, the position 0, even like 3 things might even play better, or just questions and answers. And like a frequently asked questions page is a good format for that. But there is a way that you have to structure that to get it to appear, or at least to be eligible for position 1. So,
Wow.
Basically, local search is just, everyday people looking for a product or a service, and using their phone, computer, tablet, whatever their preferred method is at that time.
And you bring up a couple of interesting points, and I know that the Google algorithm just recently changed again. I think probably even in some aspects to be more in favor of the aspect of the semantic search, right? Where they're now tying more of those phrases like, landscapers near me, landscapers Marietta, Georgia. And I think like you talked about too, what people don't always realize, and it's probably something you coach your clients on. Like if I start typing in landscapers, Google is giving you a list of terms that people are searching for along with it. And so do you think that's something that people need to make sure they think about, is that whole idea of we're now asking more about it?
Well, yeah. So Google's doing a little bit of the thinking for us, and perhaps they're even, again, influencing some of these results. So as an SEO for my clients, we have to be mindful of that. We can we can create keywords and key phrases and specifically direct somebody, for that. But if what Google is suggesting, maybe there's more searches or more people are looking for it their way, then we've got to take that into consideration as well. And I think this new algorithm change that they made, and they give them names. This one was called BERT, and we can look up BERT. But it's, again, they're adding more artificial intelligence. It's coming. It's here. It's coming, and it's going to do a better job of understanding our intent. So in the early days of search, we were very literal and very brief. We would, again, Marietta Lawn Care Company. And a lot of us still search that way because we're kind of conditioned to. But again, you can pick up your smartphone and just say, and if I say it right now, it'll turn on and start, responding.
Right.
But we start conversationally, like, hey, Googs, what's up? I need a lawn care, company to get rid of my leaves because I don't like my leaves. And I want to play golf this weekend or go out of town. And it takes all that stuff. And some of that may be relevant. Some of that may be not relevant. And it parses it down and says, this is really what you're looking for. We do find, and I don't know if you find it, if you're using any of these voice searches, we've got an Alexa, we've got a Google Home, and we still often get, I don't understand. I
What you're
don't
asking.
understand what you're asking. And then we cuss at it, right? And why did I spend money on you? And what am I paying you for? And then we speak slower and try to change it, and eventually we get some sort of
Yeah.
yeah.
And so this kind of leads to why is local SEO important? And I know it's something you've been doing for, like you said, 20 years, but what do these small business owners need to really think about in regards to this?
Well, I think like in any type of marketing, you really need to know your client. Um, and if you had a company that did mold abatement, and that's probably what the technicians call it, the technical term, and they may even use a specific term for mold instead of mold. And but if we had mold in our basement or we uncovered it, we would probably say something like mold removal. So it's important to understand our customers and what they're looking for and the condition that they're in at the time of their search, the answers that they're looking for. And we've got to be able to speak their language and understand their language. um, and then we've got to be able to be relevant with this information and content. But I think we have to create a local presence, and there are things like Google My Business profile that's free and everybody can do. And so you can just look up Google My Business. If you have a business, you can claim that business. Google knows that your business is out there. It knows where it's located, but it doesn't have the specific information that your buyers are looking for, the hours of operation and maybe a pricing schedule. And a lot of times that's where your reviews may tend to land. So you can create a Google My Business profile, and Bing has Bing Places. And so these are ways to get information into the Google infrastructure, the database. Optimizing for Google Maps is a separate extra step. And so SEOs do some different techniques to try to optimize to get into that map pack. There's only so much you can do. So it's based on location. I was recently driving. We've got a client that is a counseling center. And so we were in Woodstock and I did a voice search, and there was a location, right there in Woodstock where we were in the car. And then as we continued down toward our office, we found another one closer. So the results will change based on location. For somebody like a roofing company or heating and air conditioning, they're covering an entire metro area or certainly multiple cities. And so they want to be able to be found in the city that they're located, but probably all the other neighboring cities, in a geographic, a 10-mile, 20-mile radius. So there are different strategies that need to be done there. But we know that people are going to the search engines. Page one is very important, and the map pack. And so businesses can use this as a lead generation. There's a lot of business to be had if somebody does this and does it well.
Right. And I think you bring up a couple other good points that people aren't always aware of is how the search will change based on your physical location. And so as a business, you need to think about that. And I think the other great point you brought up, and it's funny because sometimes it'd be like, I'm expecting people to search for my business by my name. Well, they don't know my name yet, but they know what I offer. And I think sometimes they get hung up in the name of the business as opposed to the problem that they're solving. And that, I think you can obviously correct me, but it's something like 92% of people start their search for the solution to their problem on Google, on Bing. And so you have to think of what problem am I solving that people are going to search for?
Yeah, and even their intent. So if leaf removal, it's not urgent. I don't need it done this evening. But we have a client that is a criminal defense attorney, and so if you get in trouble and make a mistake, you're looking for a criminal defense attorney that night. I mean, you're looking for somebody now, right now. This is urgent. And so the intent changes a little bit. And then certainly when somebody finds that link and they click through to it, the website's got to be a little bit different too. So it's got to reflect, it's got to convert immediately and reflect the fact that you understand that they're in a tough situation and need to be able to, reach out immediately, versus the landscape company can be a little bit more friendly and whimsical, and one of our representatives will reach out, in the next, day or so is probably acceptable, versus somebody who needs something, right now. However, we all want everything right now. So
That's right. That's
yeah.
right. That's why Amazon does 1-day delivery now. But so Tim, who is, I know, wishes he could be joining us live, but at least he is watching, and I hope he's feeling better, has a question for us. And it's like, how important is Bing compared to Google for local business?
So I think it was last month or the month before at our SEO meetup, we did a whole deep dive on Bing and the whole platform. And so, we think that Google still has about 80% of the search market share, and that Bing has about 15%. And there was a time when Yahoo and Bing were sort of together. Yahoo still gets some of their data from Bing, but 15%. So we think about it, we think, well, that's a pretty small number, but those numbers are billions and billions of searches being done, now, even right now on Bing. And so, who uses Bing? In some cases, in corporate situations, the IT department determines what software can be installed and used and run on their network. And if they're a Microsoft shop, they may just decide that we're going to use, Microsoft software. We're going to use the Edge browser. Maybe they even use the Chrome browser, but Bing could be the default search engine when they just bring up Chrome and they're doing a search, so that they can control and monitor that. People that buy a new computer and aren't really adept at customizing things, so it's running Windows, and so by default, the first thing you click on may bring up a Bing panel and finish configuring Windows for you. And do you want to, Edge is now set as your default browser, and people may just say that's fine with me. It's just a browser.
Right.
So and another thing I saw was the Bing homepage is kind of neat. It's just got news. It's got little like news articles on there, and every once in a while I'll play around with different browsers and experiment. I'll use DuckDuckGo or just try some of these alternatives. Competition is good. I want to see other competitors come into the market and provide different services and things for us. But there are billions and billions of searches. And in some cases, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but when we ran the SEO meetup regarding Bing, some of the statistics indicated that people tended to stay on the site longer. The bounce rates were less. I think they bought more products. And so whoever these people are that are using Bing loyally, they seem to be, in some cases, a better customer, prospect, or client. And so, something to not be ignored. And Bing still changes their algorithm, and they list their guidelines just like Google lists their guidelines, and they have analytics just like Google does, and they've got webmaster tools, and they've got everything
Right.
that Google does. And so when we set somebody up in SEO, we've got them running in both platforms there.
Right. And I think the other thing too that people, I mean, for those of you that like games, I do know that Bing gives you points for doing things in their platform as well. So you can get discounts and other things. I play around with it sometimes, maybe not as much as I should, but I agree with you, and I do use both as well. So that kind of leads us to our next question, and this is more Google specific. But what is the Google local pack? And so many people wonder about it. Don't know how to get there, want to get there. What can you explain that?
Yeah, so when we were talking earlier about the, you do a search, and so that is called a SERP, search engine result page, and so that page comes back, and that's usually page one, the first page of results. We've got the ads at the top. We have that maybe that position 0, and then we got this map, and on the right side is a map, and then to the left are 3 different specific businesses, and there's a little bit of information, directions and phone and maybe hours, and then there's a little website icon there, so you can click through to the website. And so that's the Google local pack, the map pack, the snack pack, whatever you want to call it. And it all starts with setting up your Google My Business profile. That's where the information is coming from. And so we mentioned that Google My Business, which is kind of a free service, just another place to list your business and have your business, represented. So it's important to get that profile filled out completely. And then, like I said, that information will change as you travel down the road or as you do a search in a different location. And there's usually three businesses or 3 results, and then there's more options, and you can click on that and the screen kind of refreshes, and then down the left side there's a list of, now you get 10 or 12 of those, and you can find other businesses if people are savvy enough to do that. So it's an important place to be. If you can be found, and it's kind of right in the middle of the page, and it's on the left side. And if we looked at a heat map, I bet you a lot of mouse pointers and eyeballs would be going there.
Right. Can you hear me right now?
Yeah.
Okay, because I had a little glitch with technology. So okay, good.
So you go away. I kept talking.
You did awesome. You did awesome. That's the beauty of live video.
Right.
So going along now too. So give us some facts and figures about local SEO.
Well, I got all sorts of numbers, but anything in particular that you're looking at? Well, I'll talk about this. I think I touched on it earlier. So 90% of people that are looking for information stay on page 1. So very few people go to page 2 in a search result. So we go back to the lawn care scenario. There's enough information on page 1. There's ads. We've got the map pack. We might have position 0. We've got the natural results. We can see Bob's Lawn Care is in there with Angie's List and Yelp and Home Advisor. And so, that should be enough for, this searcher to find somebody to solve their problem. So 90% of the business is done on page 1. So if there's a business that's, not ranked and they're on page 3 for a particular term, they're just not getting found. They're missing opportunities. Another statistic that we saw was that, so on page 1, about 70% of those users skip the ads, skip the map pack, and go down to the organic search results, about 70%. So I think it's still, we're creatures of habit. And we're looking. So we see, here's the search results, Yelp. I don't want to go to another directory. Google's a directory. I'm already on a directory. Why would I want to go to another directory? In some cases we do because we have to. We're not finding what we're looking for. But, we kind of scroll down and we see one that says, oh, here's one that says Marietta Lawn Care, and here's Bob's Lawn Care. And at that point, we click on it, and the website has to do its job. It's got to load quickly. It's got to be really clear on what the main business is, or what this page, it might be an interior page on the site that was found. And then they've got to establish some trust, very quickly, because I don't know who this guy Bob is. And is he a big company? Is he a small company? Has he been around a while? And are there any reviews? What's his local reputation? So it's really important. I think on the mobile side of things, we're seeing, high percentage. I'm just kind of looking through some notes here on facts and figures. We see results. We could do a search on, mobile search results for a particular type of business. It always depends. The numbers that you see, you'll see 80% of searches are done on a mobile device, and well, that's for certain types of searches, and certainly for restaurants, the number is high. But for industrial products or something like that, we're seeing that it's computers. We've got a client that sells maintenance kits and replacement parts for outdoor power equipment. So for Bob's Lawn Care, oil filters and blades. And I mean, these guys just run through this stuff. And so we find that they're doing their searches at noon and then in the evening. And it's like, well, that makes sense. I mean, the rest of the time they're on the equipment or they're going from job to job. But the other thing that was interesting was that a majority of the searches were on desktops. And we thought, well, that's weird, especially at lunch, at noon, we thought that they would just be picking up a phone, or maybe they've got a tablet, in the truck. But we're still seeing, really high percentages of desktop from this one particular niche. So when we see statistics that are really broad and general, 80% of all searches are done on a smartphone, it's almost irrelevant. We really need to look at it on a specific type of niche. And then I think the other thing is just the voice search. And this is an incremental, these numbers are doubling almost every year. And so one of these statistics said, 50% of the searches in 2020 will be, done via a voice. So we are using voice search a lot more often. It's easy, it's convenient, but sometimes it just doesn't get us the results that we want. So we say, I got to run to a computer, on a bigger screen, and I've got to sort results and that type of thing.
Right. And so our final thing I wanted to talk about was, what are some of the factors that contribute to local SEO? And also in line with that, how do you help these small businesses? And I know we and I both have talked about it. It's not an overnight thing. So if somebody calls and says, "Oh, I can get you on page 1 tomorrow," right? Run away. But what are those things they need to do to get to that page 1? And how do you help folks? And before they just say connect with someone like you, what are some of the factors that maybe they need to take in mind to help their local SEO?
Yeah. So some things that they can do as a local business. And I think it's important, and businesses are doing well, and so a lot of people just don't have the time to do this themselves, but they come to our meetup, and we want to educate them so that at least they pick the right vendor, or they know the right questions to ask. So content is still number one. According to Google, it always has been, even in 2001 when we were getting started. Good, relevant content that speaks to the needs of the user at that time. That's the main thing. And so that content is in written content with blog posts or pages on a website, video content. These podcasts that we're doing get streamed and shared in multiple locations, can be transcribed into text. And so if we are providing good content and answering questions and meeting the needs of our client, that's something that's the first and foremost, where we have to begin there. Sometimes that can be outsourced if you've got a good, partner that understands the business and the needs of the person answering the questions. It's great if our clients can create some of this and contribute to it. They can create it, we can optimize it, sometimes do the technical part. And then reviews are important. We don't know anything about Bob's Lawn Care, and so getting good reviews and being able to read some of those, is really important. So it's just for a business, it's a good habit to when you've performed a service to solicit a review and just say, hey, would you be so kind to write a review? It really helps us. It really makes a difference. And as far as reviews, you think of a restaurant, a good restaurant that you enjoy, you go to a lot. Somebody's gonna not be happy for whatever reason, And so with any reviews, there are some that are 5-star glaring reviews. You get the others that are negative reviews, and they seem out of place. And somewhere in the middle, you see, the true experience. So it's important. I read something last week that a 4.7 out of 5 actually had more merit than a fives out of 5, and so that was interesting, because we always strive for 5, and but reviews are important, and we're kind of reviews are now easy for people to create and share. If you get bad reviews, there's processes to deal with that. Basically acknowledge it, take it offline, and try to get some more good reviews on top of it. The other part of SEO is just local backlinking. And so it's one thing to create content, but a backlink is when somebody else's website links over to our website. And so, one example would be, well, I could join the local Chamber of Commerce and they would put me in their directory. And so now I'd have a link to my website. And so it's great. It counts as a backlink. And the Chamber is a pretty good local authority. They've been around a while. And so, there's a certain value to that backlink. If I wrote a piece of content and it got published on Inc. magazine, that's been around, and it is a huge authority for local business and creating success for local business, and that was a link back to my website, that link might have a value that's 10 times or 100 times greater than that Chamber of Commerce link. So it's important to have links, and it's like a referral. Somebody creates a link and points it back to your site. It's kind of like a referral. So all of these things contribute to local SEO. This is kind of like my job in a nutshell.
Right.
So businesses that do that well are going to perform well. And there's so many, the people say, well, Google changes their algorithm all the time. Well, they do. But if we do these things consistently and just do them well and follow the Google and Bing guidelines, then we're going to perform well in the search engines. And if Google has been coming to my site and creating content on a regular basis, so if we're producing, let's say, weekly content, well, Google knows to come back on a weekly basis, and we can even give these crawlers instructions on how often we want them to come back. So if they see regular content being updated, I could really write an article on Tuesday, and it's possible that it could be indexed and appear in the searches by Thursday or Friday. And if it was really well written and my domain had a level of authority because I've been publishing good content for a long time, and it was a very specific article and answered very specific questions, there's a possibility that new content can appear very quickly in the search engines. So big results instantly and overnight. You've got to question that, and what are you doing, and where are you getting your backlinks? And I had a conversation earlier in the week with somebody about, can I buy some backlinks? And I said, you can. But Google says don't do it, and I say don't do it because I don't want to have to clean that. If he's hiring me to be his SEO guy, and he gets penalized, it hurts my effectiveness. Now I've got to work toward recovering the site and things like that.
Right.
So,
and Tim has a question along the lines of content. If you had to choose blog posts or videos in terms of priority, and what is generating better results?
I would start with video. If you're really good at cranking out video, if you could do a video a week, because you think about it, now you've got the video, you can get the audio and post that on podcasts, and or even on the website, have the video, an audio, that little SoundCloud bar or whatever that is, and then have that transcribed into text. And then you could even bundle some of that text into an e-guide and And so if you start with video, and sometimes video is just easier to do because you're just talking off the top of your head and transcribing it. If you sit down at a blank screen on a keyboard and say, okay, I'm going to write a blog post right now, sometimes it's hard. You get a little bit of writer's block. But all of us in business are experts in our given fields, and we can talk off the top of. We got a lot of stuff up in here. We can talk off the top of our head on particular topics. So if we had a list of keywords and questions that people were asking, and there are tools to be able to find out, what topics and what kind of blogs or videos should I create. And you want to create the ones that produce the greatest amount of search traffic. But at the same time, your competitors are doing the same thing. So if you can get specific, they call that a long tail search. Less traffic, but more effective. And we've seen that in that long tail is where some of the conversions and real business opportunities lie. So those are things to look at too.
Well, Bill, this has been a very, very information-packed session. So for those folks that jumped on the replay, would love to hear your comments. Thank you for those that joined us live across the various channels. Unfortunately, I can't see the LinkedIn comments yet, but I will go back and answer any questions you have. We're going to share a link in the comments that Bill's got a nice download for people for some more detailed information on SEO. And so, Bill, I think the best place, one place for people to connect, I've got your name there, and is at the i360 group on Facebook. I know you're also on the other socials. And any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think for business owners, just knowing the right questions to ask. It's interesting when we purchase a piece of equipment for our business, essential equipment. We want to know about the specifications and the warranty, and where have you had success, with this piece of equipment before. For some reason in technology and we've seen it in our field, people are hiring SEO companies and they don't know how to hire the right one, and they don't know how to, once a campaign begins, what are we looking at? How do we measure success? And so, I'll just say that all of that stuff is measurable. The same processes that we use, the same due diligence we use for buying a car, we can apply to choosing an SEO company or provider, or just a consultant. Sometimes it's just, I have some ideas and, am I going in the right direction? And we're certainly available. I mean, people can reach out, Bill Sterrett at i360group.com, and our website is i360group.com. We've got the slides on our website from previous SEO meetups that we've done, and really happy to just answer anybody's questions that they have, so that at least people are more educated and informed. And you may not choose me to provide that service, that's fine. But if you're doing the right thing, I'm happy to help, and hopefully you can grow your business and your search that way.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Bill. This has been great. I know I always learn something when we get a chance to talk. And what do you think of your first time on StreamYard?
Well, it's really cool. I've got a little bit of radio and a little bit of camera experience, so not intimidating for me. But StreamYard, this is a really nice platform, and I've used several others, and so I really like. I think it's simple, easy to use. I think they're providing a good service, and so great for me. Everything worked out well.
Yeah. And next week we will have our guest will be George Demanis, and he is going to talk about how to use photography across your digital marketing platform, and especially as Black Friday approaches. Photos and even on websites, photos are extremely important. And so we look forward to having George join us, and I hope that Tim will be back fully healthy. And so thanks everyone once again for joining the Tim and Jim Show. Thanks.